And now joined by the Shadow Housing Secretary, Sir James Cleverly, of course, is also Foreign Secretary for Liz Truss. Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
So your former boss, your former Prime Minister, doesn't think your current boss will be Prime Minister. Your reaction?
Well, I love Liz to bits. She's a long-standing friend. I've known her for a very, very long time. I think she's wrong. She's wrong on a number of things. I think what we're increasingly seeing with Kemi is that she and the party under her leadership are hitting all the important issues that the country is worried about. The economy, the excessive taxation that we're seeing from the Labour Party, re-establishing Britain's energy independence, re-establishing our self-confidence. These are things that Kemi is pushing for. Leader of the opposition is a tough job, but she's making progress every day. And I have absolutely no doubt that the more that she does, the more that people see of her, the more the country will rally behind her, behind us as a party, hold Labour to account, recognise the alternative parties as just not credible in their positions, and we will continue to win back support.
There's an extended 25-minute debate about the mini-budget in the full interview, and I think it's fair to say the gist of that is that former Prime Minister Truss still doesn't take full responsibility for the fallout of the mini-budget. She even said at one point she was not captain of the ship during that period and pointed to the Bank of England's control of monetary policy. Do you accept that? Or as a former cabinet member then, do you take responsibility for what happened?
Look, ultimately, when you're Prime Minister, you have to take responsibility for everything that happens on your watch, whether you are in direct control of it or not. That is the nature of our system. Now, a number of things that Liz said at the time that we had to pull back on public spending. We had to be a lower tax, less regulated economy. I think those positions are increasingly being vindicated. And the real irony is that the people who were crying the loudest for Liz Truss to be removed from office are now in office, and the economic indicators that they were pointing at in their criticism of Liz are now worse. And it's not, as we saw under Liz Truss's premiership, a short-term spike because the markets were spooked by the pace of the announcements that she made in that mini-budget. This is a year-long trend in the wrong direction because the markets, because business, because consumers can see that Keir Starmer doesn't have a plan and Rachel Reeves is grossly out of her depth.
Is it a shame that clearly Kemi Badenoch and Liz Truss aren't seeing eye to eye? I mean, Liz Truss wouldn't rule out frontline politics again. Should the Conservative Party put their arm around her and bring her back into the fold?
Well, look, Liz has got to decide what she wants to do. She's a former Prime Minister. She has lots of options and opportunity in life. Ultimately, Kemi is in charge. She won fair and square. She set out an agenda about renewing the Conservative Party, taking the fight to Labour, making it clear that the Lib Dems, the Greens, Reforms and all these other parties do not have a credible plan. We're the only alternative party of government with a credible plan. And that's why I'm in your studios today, because today we are testing Labour and we are testing whether they are going to be true to their commitments. We have put forward two motions. One, ruling out the tax on family homes that we've heard speculation about over the summer, and one, reversing these damaging tax and regulatory burdens on the hospitality sector. If Labour MPs, if the Labour front bench vote with our motions, fine. They will have proved that they are not intending to tax family homes and they are intending to take the burden off hospitality. If they don't, then the mask will have slipped and we will see that this Labour government really do not have a credible plan to repair the economy.
I guess we'll see what's the plan in the budget in a couple of months.
No, we don't have to wait to the budget. They could do it this afternoon. And if they fail to do so, then I think we know what's coming.
They could, but I don't think anyone would expect votes at this point to reveal exactly what's in the budget. We'll judge the budget when it comes, and indeed when we have a date for it. A couple other topics to touch on. The comedian Graham Linehan was arrested at Heathrow Airport by 5 armed police officers for a tweet. Obviously, there's been some other various examples of things like this in the last year or so. Have things gone too far in this country on that regard?
Well, obviously, the situation with Graham is still live. I don't have the full details, and I don't want to speculate too much about exactly what happened. But it appears to be an overreaction to what was self-evidently a joke. And indeed, Graham has said that it wasn't necessarily a particularly funny joke. And I do think we need to be careful about over-responding to things like that when actually many people feel that the police's time and effort could and should be better deployed on the kind of things that worry them, whether it's street crime, whether it is shoplifting and that kind of stuff. We do have a strong tradition of freedom of speech in this country. It is still in a good place, but it does need to be protected, and we've got to make sure we don't drift. The Labour Party, I think, are at least partially to blame for this, because they have been very condemning of very natural and normal conversations that people have. They've been very condemning of people who are concerned about this big move towards vilification of anyone that is gender critical. And I think we've got an opportunity to reset, but the government has got to understand that they have got to take a lead in this.
Well, I'm interested, obviously a former Home Secretary, so you're really up to speed on this issue. And I almost wondered whether you'd come on and say, look, we should step back cross-party and assess whether things have changed and the world has changed, so the law might need to change with it, which was kind of the approach from Wes Streeting earlier. But you're blaming the government specifically, and I'd say to that, surely if you look at the last 5 years, the party that has changed the rules on this more is your party by passing the Online Safety Act. Has the government passed any laws that have amped up what the police have to do in this area?
So the two issues you're conflating there, I think, are fundamentally different issues, because so Graham wasn't arrested under the Online Safety Act. So you're conflating two completely different issues.
Okay,
there is an issue.
And what have they done specifically that was more than what you'd done as Home Secretary?
Well, the tone that they put forward, both when they were in opposition criticising us and now that they're in government, is that people who say things that they don't agree with, or indeed say things they don't like, should be criminalised, not just disagreed with. And that has been the tone that they have taken. Now, the Online Safety Act was seeking to address, in the manifestation that we put it forward, seeking to address some real challenges with regard to child safety, child sexual exploitation online. And that is something that we have to address. What we're seeing with the current government is they are basically looking not even just to vilify, but to criminalise things that they don't like. That is classic Labour Party overreach, and it's one of the reasons why they need to be kicked out of government and our party, the Conservative Party, back in at the first opportunity.
And just final question on China. Obviously, President Xi showing a show of strength with a military parade, but perhaps more significantly, standing side by side, arm in arm almost, with President Putin and with Kim Jong-un. Are we at a moment where we have to look at China not just as a challenger or an adversary, but more as an enemy? Well,
that's not necessarily a word that I would like to use. And I gave a speech where I was saying trying to define China in a single word is, I think, counterproductive. Their behaviour in this area, and their support for Russia, their tacit support for Russia in its attack on Ukraine, the disruptive influence it's had in the UK, transnational repression and repression of its own people, these are unacceptable. I said so when I was Foreign Secretary. I continue to say so now. We have to be absolutely committed to defending our values against whatever challenges, including China. And sadly, the images that we're seeing coming out of Beijing are a reinforcement of the fact that we have to be very, very careful. Sadly, again, the Labour Party, completely naive in their relationship with China, which is why they're waving through the applications for the new mega embassy in London.
That hasn't been approved yet, has it?
Well, they waved it through. I think Angela Rayner now is suddenly realising that they've been naive and thoughtless, And they just assumed that the reason it didn't go ahead was because the Tories were being unreasonable. I think now, finally, and perhaps these images coming out of China today are reinforcing this, they're starting to understand how foolish and naive and thoughtless they have been with regard to their relationship with China.
But they haven't obviously approved that as things stand. James Cleverly, very good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.